You're early. And in crypto, early means opportunity.
Today, we're going to be speaking of building the generational wealth.
Around 6-7 years into my career, I got the entrepreneurial bug and I found my first company.
I never thought I'd be founder, CEO of anything.
Everyone in the world, including your grandmother, knows today that data is the new oil.
Water scarcity is going to become the number one global risk in the next decade.
We want to help accelerate that revolution.
Hello everyone, Daniel from DePIN Hub over here, and today we are interviewing Prashant, CEO and co-founder of Spheron Network, a company dedicated to simplifying and accelerating the deployment of decentralized application and infrastructure. They have a very interesting background coming from from CPU, and now moving to the GPU world. Anyway, let's get started. Prashant, thanks so much for joining the podcast. Let's start by you introduce yourself, your background, and your role at Spheron Network.
Yeah, sure, man. First of all, thank you so much for having us here. I'm quite excited to share the entire journey as we kind of move along with the conversation. But just wanted to correct few things. Is like I'm not a CEO anymore. I'm just intern at Spheron, so I just put that here. So I just so I've been removed from CEO position and put as an intern into the Spheron. So that is what I'm trying to do. But coming to the my background, so I've been building the software it's around decade now. I spent into this industry of the software world, understanding, building, fixing bugs, improving tons of other things, which happens along with that, managing team members. Now after joining crypto, I also learned legal, accounts, company operations, tons of other things. So that basically adds up into my experience as well. So that is what about me. Now coming to Spheron, what we are trying to build. I think you summed it very well. Is like from CPU to GPU. I think we are not coming from just CPU to GPU. We came from web hosting to storage to CPU and the GPU. I think that should be the right journey for us in the past 5 years, while we were doing multiple pivots to kind of understand and gauge the market. So at Spheron currently, what we are trying to imagine, because all of this pivot kind of led us to a very nice thing which we wanted to kind of build always, is make infrastructure more accessible and seamless. But with that, what we built over the time is a framework which basically allows you to launch and basically validate any existing compute marketplace, which Spheron is also one of it. So Spheron is building an entire decentralized compute, or you can say the decentralized cloud framework, which allows you to go ahead and use the existing tooling, services, and everything inside your current marketplace, or directly access the GPU from the Spheron's marketplace as well, which is controlled and governed by the framework which we have created around it. So that is what we are doing at Spheron.
Let's talk a little bit about the story, like how you guys got started. You mentioned before that you started doing like IPFS on Arweave. How was the process of like, okay, that's the first thing we're going to do, and slowly pivoting to now focusing a lot on the GPU side of things, and also using the DePIN method to acquire a lot of those users and supply side as well. How was the story about that? I think something that I found very valuable. You guys have been building for quite some time. You have gone through a lot of things. If you have some cool stories as well to share.
Yeah, sure. So I think the story was when we decided to kind of build into the infra space. Our first philosophy was like when we kind of came into, I don't know like how many people resonate with that, but when we came into, a lot of DEXs were getting launched, and we found a very nice trawler statement for all of these DEXs which were getting launched. It's like they were just using like a cache, which is a Cloudflare cache, or let's say all of those caches, right? And those caches are like modifiable. So if you kind of look at very closely, is like 90% people who are currently using Uniswap, they are using via front end, right? Now the if you look at the attack vector, if if front end of Uniswap get compromised today, then those 90% people will be interacting to the malicious contract, right? That's a very, very fair thing to kind of say. And that point of time, that is how we thought, is like it's a very massive use cases. It more and more DeFi and these things will get built up. They need more and more these. They will end up in these product statement, and it really happened. Like if you go to Rect Finance and all of these places, you'll find a lot of incident where domain got compromised, people lost money. Nobody. It was a huge security breach, right? Which even exists today as well. Like I think few days back itself, some of the Curve, I believe, they posted like their domain got hijacked and something was happening, and a lot of people have lost their money. This we thought, let's say 4 to 5 years back, and we started building around that. Now the problem which you wanted to solve is, even in the case of hijacking of a domain, is it possible for a community to kind of go and access that user interface without even needing a domain? So that we wanted to kind of solve. And it can only happen if you deploy the same website on, let's say, IPFS with a immutable hash. And then you take an immutable hash and retrieve it from anywhere in the world, and you can just access the same front end, right? So that is how it all started. And we wanted to ensure is like the infra become much more seamless, accessible, and all of those things. We built a nice UX layer and everything. The good part is like we made more than 1 million commits on IPFS as well, both on the file commit on the website side as well as the people who have uploaded the files. But we could not find the right value proposition where it has a network effect. When I say network effect, if you kind of like if you look at Web2, right? So Web2 has everything like from on the front end side. Like they have fast load time, fast all of those things. So you literally have to build everything from the scratch. It was like build a rabbit hole. Like you keep on getting into that rabbit hole, and then you keep on building all of those things, and it will take decades for you to even build something. And we tried our level best. We spent around 1.5 years into doing that, just doing that, and we onboarded close to around 15,000 developers, millions of commits, and tons of other things. But at that point of time, we realized like, no, it's not going to scale, or there are a lot of capital which is required, and that is how we kind of pivoted. We started looking for new ways to make this entire theory of ours, like make infrastructure more accessible. So that is what led us to the CPU journey in 2023. In 2023, we came in and we said like modularity was kicking in. And since I come from a solution architecture background, you must be knowing ASPX and all of those things pages, right? So earlier we used to have a monolith applications where all this backend and everything sits into one repository, and then you just build all those repository, and then the modularity came into the picture. Then you have PWAs, SPAs, and everything came into the picture, right? The moment I think Celestia came in, the modularity came in, we knew one thing: compute is going to get used heavily. Even if anything is getting used or not, doesn't matter, but compute is going to get used heavily. And that was a moment of time when we looked into most of the projects, and most of them were using AWS, GCP, Google Cloud, or any of these verticals, but rarely anyone was using DePIN compute. And since we were very curious, like why people are not using DePIN compute, because there are already existing ones, right? When we got deeper into that rabbit hole of experience, we found what user need, what they're building is completely detached. Like it's not at all matching somewhere. And that is where we went ahead and we built an experience layer on top of existing DePIN compute network. And within a couple of months, they saw a massive demand increment on the compute side, and that proved in our PMF. And that is when we decided to kind of go and launch on. And there is a separate story of having a launch of our own protocol as well. Because while we were building, we found a flawed system on which everyone is trying to build. And we wanted to fix that flawed system with the framework which we have built over the time at Spheron. So that is what the journey has been for Spheron, and pivoting from those websites to CPU to GPU, where we are now. And our system basically allows GPU also, so it just comes by default.
Yeah, and I was checking your website. It looks very interesting, the way that you can have the marketplace, select different users, like how different profiles and everything, and the prices are very good as well, especially if compared to Amazon and cloud servers, etc. Right? Could you say that now you guys are focusing more on the GPU, the graphic cards market for training AI, for stable diffusion images? How was that shift between CPU to GPU?
I think the shift is it really comes to the design. So let's say if you are designing a system which don't have a kernel access, then that basically means like you are designing some like then you need to make a shift. But if you are designing our system is containerized system, right? So container already have access to GPUs. So what happens with that is we just really don't have to shift. You just enable GPU. That's it. But the thing which we wanted to kind of bring in is the supply side, is to understand like how the supply dynamics works. Because these GPUs are like crazy in demand in the market, and why do somebody will give you that GPU, right? So there should be certain incentive, certain things for them. And that is when we started tapping into that underutilized GPUs, which we are currently working with, most of the people, and we are bringing them onboarded with the Spheron's marketplace.
Nice. And okay, so I have a spare computer in my home. I have a graphic card, it's like a GeForce 4090. What is the process like for me to try to join the Spheron network? Am I able to right now? And what would be the process to do that?
Oh yeah, you can. So it's very straightforward to do it. So in Spheron, we have two places where you can contribute your excess computing capacity. The one is to becoming a big provider into the network, and the other you become a smaller node in the network, which we call as a fizz node. So providers are the like if you look at hierarchy system in the providers are the people like who are communicators to the other folks in the network, while these providers, any phase node can join in. So you basically form a network. So in both the ways you can do that. And phase node is going to get launched next month, most likely. But providers we are already testing with existing providers. We already have got RDX 4090s, H100s, which are coming in, A100s, which are coming in. We already have got A6000s, which are already getting tested. So yeah, our docs are there, quite straightforward and easy to kind of get onboarded. But you need to have a basic knowledge to become a provider, but not for Fizznode. Fizznode is completely for community to kind of go and participate and share the access capacity without even like having too much of a knowledge. But for becoming a provider, you need to have certain fundamental knowledge.
And you said phase nodes? Is that correct? Then for them, like, what is the requirement in terms of hardware? Is just like kind of like they're checking some things that the network's performing what they say it is. Can I run on a Raspberry Pi or a simple VPS?
No. So we have the thing which you are mentioning. It is called Slark node into the system. Those are not called fizz node. So the fizz node is basically like, imagine you have a compute at your house, which is your MacBook or something, and you want to lease that out. You can just do that quite easily with the fizz node. Or imagine if you are already contributing your compute network to somebody else and you don't want to like become a big provider, but you want to still share your compute idle resources with us, you can just do that with the fizz node. While Slack nodes are very big, and they are the coolest thing which we have built so far, is a trustless compute auditors, which maintains your tiering system, which ensures like you are perform the GPU which you are saying it is GPU, it is that. Basically, there are a lot of like I'll share that article. There's an article which I published a few days back called Trustless Compute Auditor on my Twitter handle. If somebody is very interested, please go ahead and read that out. It drills it down in a very deeply around that, and also on our white paper as well, where we talk about the Slack deeply.
For sure, I'll make sure to put this link also in the description of the video or the audio whenever the users are listening to. And yeah, make sure to hit the like button on our podcast because there's a lot of cool things coming up as well, like Spheron Network. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the crypto journey then. So you guys started, was it Arweave? Like was it an Ethereum project in the beginning? Now are you guys still going to be kind of like Ethereum? Like what kind of blockchain are you guys thinking of building on top of, or have your own layer one?
So we are going to be on Ethereum for sure. We are going to be an L2 on Arbitrum. That is what we are looking at kind of build. And the reasoning behind that was like most of the mind share, if you kind of look at the innovation which is happening, is in our Ethereum ecosystem. Either it is abstraction in terms of other ecosystems as well, but innovations are going to be happening here. So we wanted to like make sure like we are future proof in multiple things. So we chose that, but our entire design is quite interoperable. So imagine in any worst case scenario, something happens to Arbitrum or something happens to anything, we can easily shift from one place to another without any hiccups. So we have taken all of those design consideration while designing it, but we are going to be on the Arbitrum L2.
Nice. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Arbitrum is a great layer 2 for sure to build a lot. There's a lot of DePIN projects building on top of that, right? Ether, it's another one that's doing GPU that's like is building on top of them, and many others. Okay, let's say I want to deploy an application. I saw that on the documentation on the website that I can do a lot of things like Postgres, MySQL, even like a Minecraft server, right? It's very simple to do that. Like, what is the process like for a new user who wants to join and actually want to start using Spheron network on the demand side, not just on the supply side?
It's quite so the whole forte of Spheron is the experience layer. Like our biggest bread and butter is the experience layer. So, but the experience layer requires a strong foundational layer to be as well, because if you build an amazing experience layer, imagine, and then you built it over a place where you just, I always take this example, but I don't know, like I don't want to sound very rationalist on those front, but imagine you are building a Burj Khalifa in a place where you get everyday earthquake, right? Will you be able to build that? Most likely no, right? So you need a place where you can just build such a high building or like a high-rise building, which basically can sustain that. So it goes same with the infra space as well. Imagine you build an amazing user experience, but your foundational is flawed. Foundation is completely flawed, and that is what happened with the DePIN compute. And I'm boldly speaking this because this is the true fact, and nobody can deny on that. It's like everyone just knows it, but they don't speak it out. I speak it out. That's the biggest challenge with me. But what we have found is like the foundational is broken, so we are fixing that foundation first, and then experience layer we are already having a forte in. That's gonna get solved quite easily. But just to give you a very good context, how exactly it will be. There are two ways people can use Spheron. The one is the custodial way, and the another is non-custodial way. So custodial way is basically where the cloud comes into the picture, while non-custodial way is where cloud doesn't come into the picture. You directly interact with the protocol. And then in the non-custodial way, you have a CLI and everything as it is, like cloud. And in the custodial way also, we have a CLI, API, and everything as it is. So as a user, you choose whatever you wish to choose, but there are experiences which will change for you. Non-custodial way, we are building data specifically for the Web3 native users, while custodial way, we are building specifically for the Web2 users, so that they don't have to like go ahead with the same problem statement. Like they don't have to go ahead and acquire the tokens, which they don't even care about, while they care about what they need compute. We just give them compute. That is what the custodial way is going to be looking like. And the coolest example which we have built so far is the Spheron network itself, app.spheron network. And the second is the SuperNodes. SuperNodes is the first, you won't believe, SuperNodes is the first DePIN node as a service which has been built so far. And no one speaks about it because we have not done a lot of distribution, but it at a given point of time, it was driving thousands of deployments on us in a single day. And it's going to be activated again by next month. So we are going to see massive demand coming on there as well. So that is what for the user it's going to look like.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Let's say I want to host a Postgres database, right? For all the DePIN project that we're tracking on DePIN Hub. And what happens if the server that I'm hosting, the content gets offline? Do you have like some redundancy? How does that work to guarantee peace of mind for the users as well that are using the network?
I think it's a good question. So on the generally, if you ask me on the container-based application, you should never run MongoDB, and those are not for production users. Those are for testing purposes, just for disclaimer, because at this point of time, we don't give any redundancies. So basically, we don't create any backups for your things. But we have something called persistent storage. And if you look at in the MongoDB as well, MongoDB allows you to, even if you are running a container, it allows you to mount a volume on top of it. So let's say if I am running and storing everything on that volume, then that volume can be backed up quite easily. And whenever you run next time, it can extract the data or pull the data from that volume. This is how it works. But generally, our focus is not around like running the databases, because those are very, very different use case. And those will be very suitable for a cloud once we launch that. in the cloud system that it works because of the things. But if you have DePIN Hub and if you have data around the DePIN Hub, I would highly recommend to commit on IPFS and read it from there, because that will be much more cheaper and cost effective way. But yeah, that is what my take is. But for the end user, if you're looking for, let's say I want to deploy a server, which is API server or microservices or anything like that, then you can just do it quite seamlessly. Just click, put your Docker image, put your private history, just launch it. It just spills up everything and give it to you.
And then because that server belongs to someone else, right? Someone else's house. Maybe it's the server in my kitchen. And then, I don't know, maybe my girlfriend unplugs the computer to, do something in the house, to plug a fan, for example. Now it's very hot here in Lisbon. Is there a way that, the server is going to go down?
No. So that is where Spheron shines. So the Slack node, which I've just told you. So in Spheron, we have 7 tiering system. Okay. So we start from tier 7 and we go to tier 1. So tier 7 is the lowest tier member who will join in. For example, your girlfriend, or even my wife, or anyone else who connects their CPU. So basically, let's say somebody from our house, somebody wants to connect their GPU with us, and if they, let's say, unplug it, first of all, once they plug it, they will join in tier 7. Okay. So that basically means, like, let's say, imagine in this case, you and us are the users. Now, what I'm going to ask from network, hey network, in our case, it's Spheron. Spheron, can you give me GPU or CPU capacity which has uptime of, let's say, 100%? Okay. Then our system, which is a matchmaker in between, which basically lies, it goes and it finds out somebody who has 100% uptime. Now, how we map 100% uptime is how long you have connected to the network over the period of a time, right? And how much challenges you have performed. If you are in tier 1, then only tier 1 and tier 2 people are going to be having 100% uptime. And below that, nobody will be having an uptime, right? So that is how our system is designed. So most likely, whenever you go and say this requirement, you will get somebody who has 100% uptime. Now, the next use case can be is like, hey, you know what? I'm okay with 90% uptime, but I need a cheaper compute, right? There can be use cases, like, let's say I'm testing something and I don't need 100% uptime, but I need a cheaper compute. Then you again submit the same request to matchmaker. It goes and it finds, let's say, your computer, and it gives your computer access to me, because my matchmaker knows, because you are in tier 6, imagine, or tier 5, then it picks tier 5, which has a lower price and 90% uptime. It matches you and it gives to you. And that is how our system works. It's not like the existing network systems where you have to literally go and choose, hey, you know what, I'm going to believe on this provider, I'm going to believe on that. No, we have a tiering system which eliminates all of these questions altogether, which basically brings trust in a very trustless manner.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I can see that. There's a lot of time, like you said, I just want to, I deploy code. I want to see how it feels live. I don't care if the server goes down, which happens a lot of time, right? You don't necessarily need something ready for production. I think we have a lot of servers that are just made for testing. And that, I think, could be a very, very actually use case, because, like, okay, I can just get a cheaper server to test anyway. That's okay.
Believe me, one more thing is, like, since I come from dev, we keep on doing a lot of development. We pay a lot of money to, generally, like most of the time in our testing, we pay a lot of money to centralized clouds. Imagine if we are giving you the same capabilities, but at, let's say, 1/10th of the cost, then why the hell you will not use that, right? You will say, okay, let's say go and use that. The only place where you will stop is the integration part, and that is what we are working on.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. We're going to start also using Spheron network for our testings, and then a lot of the things that we're doing. I think that makes perfect sense. What are the major milestones that you guys have for this year? And it has like 6 more months, more or less. Do you have anything scheduled? Because it says there's something coming up. And then how do you see the project evolve, from this year to the next 5 years, let's say?
So I imagine for I'll speak 5 years first, and then 6 months later. On the 5-year timeline, what we look at is to create an entire compute network state. What does that mean? Basically, is like there should be a compute network state which starts creating its own economy on the edges. Fizz nodes are getting connected to the providers, and let's say, imagine if I'm in Dubai should have its own Spheron networks edge clients which are running, bigger one, and then smaller one which are connected with the smaller device to the network, and powering the lot of businesses in Dubai itself. And the same goes with India, same goes with US, same goes with other places as well. That is what we are kind of looking at a longer run. In the next 5 to 6, like 6 months down the line, what we are looking forward is to first bootstrap the supply. That is what we are kind of going to be working on. Incentivize the early users to kind of be the part of network, launch a token to bring that into effect, most of the things, so that more and more people would love to kind of participate into the network. Get listing in all of those token things kind of done. And on the parallel, we are going to be launching multiple collaboration with a lot of projects who we are discussing with, and ensuring is that, like, at least in the next 1 year, most of the AI companies who are getting or AI agents or AI builders who are building into this space, I can say, like, not most, because they are getting 350K credits from GCP nowadays, so they are basically using that. But down the line, let's say 6 months, once they kind of end up in consuming the entire credit, I want them to shift to Spheron, and that is where we are working towards, to aggregate all of these AI builders, AI stores, tons of other things on the network, so that they can use decentralized compute versus the centralized one.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. I think, especially, I think those credits that Amazon and Google Cloud they give to those users, it's almost like a Trojan horse, because you get this, like, oh, I have so much money, and then those services actually cost so much money that you go through them quite quickly, and then a lot of times you build so much around it that you get stuck, and then you have to deal with the very, very expensive bill at the end of the month for a long time, right? So I think it's very important to be aware of that when you're building a product, and there's like the shiny money comes to you saying, like, okay, we can give you like a lot of infrastructure money for free, right? I think it's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, same as us, like DePIN Hub, we don't use basically anything. There's like 1 or 2 services that we use from Amazon or Google Cloud. They're very specific that we cannot find anywhere else. But in general, we also try to focus on like bare metal machines, things that make sense, because we don't want to just like go with the flow and then just almost everyone uses AWS and spend a lot more money than we should, right? Where could people know more about the Spheron network?
It's very straightforward. Just type Spheron on Google. You will find us, all the areas we are good in. What we have done in the past 4 years is like improve our SEO ranking. So you'll just learn about Spheron everywhere. You can go to Spheron network. All the links you will find down as well: Twitter, LinkedIn, Discord, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you want to. But most likely, if you're watching us on our Twitter, you can just write Spheron FDN, which is our foundation account. Follow us there. That is the best way to kind of connect with us. And yeah, I think the best way would be like just type on Google Spheron, SPHERON, and believe me, like we will come first. So just click on that link, and everything will be taken care after that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna make sure to also put on the description of the video or the audio, like all the information for people they can find you guys and then can start building on top of you, or deploying some sort of like the supply side as well, right? Well, thanks so much for being on the podcast today. It was really interesting. I'm very excited to actually use the Spheron network as well on our side, and help see you guys grow and thrive, because there's a lot of work to do. I can see you guys been working for quite some time. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of future for DePIN projects as well, and people building on top of what you guys are creating. So I'm very excited to help spread the word and actually use it. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having us.